Yeah, I think it's in line with our guidance. Yeah, obviously, since the boom times of a few years back, things have got a little bit more so hectic in the market, and it works harder to come by. So it is off a weaker base,
right.
but equally, we did go out there and say to ourselves we weren't going to sort of chase revenue at the expense of cash and margins, and so that may have also had some impact. But I think we're satisfied that our construction business itself actually performed very well in terms of the overall market. It was just one or two other areas that were a little weaker.
Okay, now going forward, I mean, what are you expecting? We've seen impairments, as you suggest, in the property side of the business. You've had to also reduce the value of your building materials business. Yes,
apart from construction, which we mentioned, and it's nice to see its order books also being sustained at the levels which we've last reported in June. But our manufacturing business held up quite well, but it was in the construction materials business where we had some issues. The market has really been in essentially free fall for a while, and there's only so much you can do with a fixed sort of quarry locations if there's not a lot of work around there. So it has been the dearth of activity in that region. So we've had to resize the business and revalue the business to really match what we see as an ongoing market.
Now, obviously, the government has made its intentions of reining in the budget deficit as a priority for them. That leads to reasonable expectations that there won't be a lot of government contracts on offer going forward. What options then are there available for you?
Well, I think it's a little bit of bittersweet, because there is still a huge amount of infrastructure that has to be built in South Africa, and it is already budgeted for, and it has been programmed in previous years. It just hasn't been able to be executed for a number of reasons. Financials being one, shore capacity being the other. So we see a steady rate of infrastructure investment over the next few years, but it's certainly not enough to grow an organisation like ours. So we've had to really move back out again into the international arena, and that we've done quite well in this period. If you look at our order book, it's more than 40% now outside of South Africa. So that's been a positive for us.
Outside of South Africa, focus on Africa. I mean, we do know of other industry players who were burned very badly in, the Middle East, for instance.
Yes, we have activities in the Middle East which are really quiet at the moment. We're still dealing with the history there, but we are bidding. We are in more countries now. We've added a few more territories in the past year or so. But really, essentially, our markets of growth currently are Africa, really driven by the sort of resurgence in resources, but equally East European environment, where we're quite active there in the concessions game. And it has been quiet for a while, but now we're seeing a few more of those opportunities coming through.
The rationale of 50 cents per share dividend with these figures?
Yeah, I think one needs to look at the impairment as a one-off readjustment of the value of that business to suit a market, but the underlying business of 95% of Group 5 is healthy. We generated good cash, and we have good cash, and we're optimistic about the recovery perhaps in the next year or so. So there's no reason for shareholders to be sort of censured, if you like. And so we thought it was appropriate to put a dividend up and down 17% on the prior year. It's in line with our performance. So I think that's the right market for us to give to our shareholders.
And finally, I mean, we do know that the industry in general is now subject to a lot of scrutiny and investigations, allegations of collusion in the tendering processes, etc. For Group 5, where do you stand, and are we likely to see some sort of hefty penalty come your way?
Well, if we have come to market today with a bit more information, as much as we're allowed to. Group 5 took the Commissioner's announcement in 2008 that he was investigating the industry seriously. We did a lot of our own work. We've done an invasive investigation into our own organisation, and we've established a number of markers, and we are first in the queue in those, ready to clean up and to make a contribution to an industry which needs to be more sustainable going forward. So we would hope our actions are seen as a benefit for the industry. That said, we don't expect a fine, and I think we need to move on now.